late spring and autumn period. The land is in chaos. Kings and tyrants fight for supremacy, and the flames of war burn all four corners. Meanwhile, in the far southern state of Yue, a lone maiden walked the rough dirt road. Behind her is the forest she calls home, and before her is the capital of Yue. She had been summoned by the king. Traveling alone in a chaotic era, her brazenness is a reflection of her martial skills. Along the way, an old man accosted her. He introduced himself as Yuan Gong and said,
I've heard you have excellent sword fighting technique. Care for a little demonstration?
I make no attempts to hide it. Why don't you try me?
Wielding a bamboo stalk, the old man lunged towards her. Swiftly she dodged the attack, and as she did, she noticed that a withered part of the bamboo had broken off. Not wanting to mortally wound this elderly man, she caught the broken piece and made it her weapon. He followed with a flurry of attacks, but she parried them with ease. Weaving in, she made 1, 2, 3 thrusts and summarily ended the fight. Knowing that he had been bested, the old man escaped by jumping up a tree and turned into a white ape. He was never to be seen again.
Well, that escalated quickly.
I must say, that's the most elaborate excuse I've ever heard for being late.
The year was 484 BCE, centuries before China was united by the first emperor, Qin Shi Huang. At that time, China was made up of a collection of disparate states which fight for supremacy against each other. Less than a decade ago, the state of Yue escaped narrow annihilation after losing a disastrous war against its more powerful neighbor to the north, Wu. Yue's king Goujian was made a slave and humiliated for 3 long years before he was allowed to return. Now, as a vassal of Wu, he had been pretending to serve his master dutifully, while secretly he plots revenge. What he needs now is the best swordsman to train his army. Noble or common, his background is of no concern. He will be chosen upon merit. He will be the best among the best. He will be a girl! While it was Fan Li, his most trusted prime minister's idea to summon her, Goujian cannot help but doubt the wisdom of this endeavor. Nevertheless, her skill was renowned among the populace, and since she had traveled all the way from the southern forest, he might as well as make the best out of it. So he asked her,
Tell me, who taught you the ways of the sword, my dear?
I live in the middle of the forest, alone. There is no one to teach me. Likewise, no one to prevent me training. My knowledge came to me naturally.
A self-taught swordswoman, eh? Now even more skeptical, the practical King Goujian requested that she demonstrate her skills.
My ways are mysterious but simple, faint yet deep. It has doors and windows, just as yin and yang. Close the door, open the window, and the yin will fall as the yang rise. Just like hand-to-hand combat, the spirit burns within, while it's tranquil on the outside. The maiden hides a tiger. Flutter like a cloth in the gentle breeze and sail with the gods. Be dark in the sun, like a rabbit chasing shadows in daylight. Don't restrict your breathing. Go against the weave and never reply directly. The one who understands these principles can equal 100, and 100 equals 10,000. My king, would you like to try me?
Overwhelmed by the display of her talent, Goujian hired her on the spot and proclaimed that
From now on, the maiden will be known as Yuenü, the Maiden of Yue. Her technique will be called the Sword of the Yue Maiden.
And that was the story of how the Maiden of Yue became the sword-fighting instructor of the Yue army. Some even believe that she was the reincarnation of the goddess of war, Yuenü. Okay, If you think what you have heard sounded like a plot from your average Sunday afternoon kung fu special instead of real history, then I can't blame you. But this event was recorded in a real history book, the Spring and Autumn Annals of Wu and Yue, written from the point of view of the kings, of course, because screw the commoners. This happened in the 13th year of Goujian's reign. There are many women warriors recorded in ancient Chinese history, from Fu Hao in the Shang Dynasty circa 1200 BCE to Qin Yue in the 17th century Ming Dynasty. But the Yue maiden is the first one who devoted herself to the art of sword fighting. And her sword fighting principles are the earliest known exposition on sword fighting in China, if not the world over. I'm sure some of you watching would be thinking, is she real? Well, this channel isn't called Cool History Bros for nothing, so let's do a bit of historical forensics and suss it out. We will start with the argument against her existence. Unlike those other warrior women I mentioned, there is no archaeological evidence of her or corroborating accounts from other historical records. She is not of noble lineage either, so we can't track her family tree. Poor people can't afford historians. Big surprise there. While it doesn't prove that she's completely fictional, it just means that our confidence level of her existence drops a little. Then there is the problem of the source material, the Spring and Autumn Annals of Wu and Yue. Just to let you know, Spring and Autumn really just means chronicles. Because when Confucius wrote his tremendously influential chronicles in the 5th century BCE, he called it Spring and Autumn. So later historians with delusions of grandeur also call their chronicles Spring and Autumn of something something. The Wu and Yue Annals were written in the Eastern Han Dynasty, 500 years after the recorded event. The writing style also resembles the style of the school of small talk, the ancient novelists from the 100 schools of thoughts. This is practically the ancient version of narrative history. It also contains other fantastical and supernatural elements. But to be fair, so do many other ancient history books. As for the argument for her plausible existence, we can look back into millennia of ancient Chinese history. For some reason, China produces tons of women warriors. Look at that list. It is just a sample of what's out there. So in the bigger scheme of things, just having another one is not a very outlandish notion. By the way, if you're looking for Mulan, she is not on the list, because she is almost certainly fictional. But we will cover her in the near future though, so watch out for it. What is also interesting about the principles of her sword fighting techniques is that if you practice Neijia or internal kung fu, her techniques would be very familiar to you. For those who don't understand the term, here's a quick rundown. Kung fu is usually divided into these two categories, external and internal. External kung fu or waijia focuses on strong, fast and powerful movements. Hungar and Shaolin styles fall under this category. Internal kung fu, on the other hand, focuses on reaction, knowledge of human anatomy, and using the enemy's strength against themselves. Styles like Tai Chi and Wing Chun fall under this category. Coincidentally, Wing Chun was also invented by a woman, Ng Mui, so the legend says. But if you speak to any of the practitioners, they will tell you that you don't need too much raw strength to be effective with this style, making it suitable for female practitioners too. Now, if you look at the sword of the Yue maiden, you can clearly see that the techniques are deceptive and reactive, very much in line with a Neijia style, except that this was written over 1,000 years before those styles were even invented, which makes it crazy if you are a martial arts historian. The style she is describing might be a proto-Wutang sword style. Yeah, the Taoist martial arts sect, from which the Wutang clan got their name from. Wutang has many sword styles, and many Neijia styles also descended from this sect. So even if she doesn't exist, I think this record is still a very valuable resource for those who has interest in the history of martial arts. But don't let me influence your judgment too much. I've given you all the information. How plausible do you think that the Maiden of Yue had actually existed? Very, somewhat, or not plausible at all? Share your thoughts in the comment section. By the way, if you are new here and you're wondering whether the King of Yue finally got his revenge against Wu, check out our last video featuring him. And if you would like to see more contents on kick-ass myths, legends, and histories from Asia and other parts of the world, then remember to subscribe and click the bell button. Until next time, stay cool, my bros.